Chapter 9. Okie stood on the side porch, looking out at the large field, already tilled and ready for planting. Soon that land would be covered with tea plants and mulberry trees as far as the eye could see. Eventually, the cocoons would be placed in the middle of the mulberry trees. Until then, they would remain in the large storage area underneath the house, where it was cold and the silkworms could hibernate. The men had already planted a keyaki tree at the southeast corner of the farmhouse. Someday it would provide shade for the upstairs bedroom. On the far side of the vineyard, across the road, was an enormous hill with a farmhouse at the base, the home of their closest neighbors, the Veerkamps. Beyond that hill, many thousands of miles away, was Japan. The hills surrounding the farm looked very much like those in Wakamatsu, and when Okie looked at them, she often thought of mother and father. She found these thoughts to be good ones, and she was not as lonely as she was when she first left home. She liked taking care of Frances, and was very fond of her. Mrs. Schnell was strict, but she was also kind and even quite funny at times. Okie cared very much for this family. Suddenly she laughed out loud and said to herself, "I am a silly goose. I do not mind living in America." And then she saw Matsu striding toward her, and she thought pleasantly, "Sometimes I am very happy I am here in America." "Ohayo gozaimasu, Okie," Matsu said as he smiled at her. And Okie greeted him cheerfully too. "Ohayo gozaimasu, Matsu-san." Yes, it was a good morning, and she blushed. She quickly bowed her head, hoping he could not read her thoughts. Matsu seemed not to notice her rosy cheeks, and he did not stop for very long. He was headed toward the fields. Some of the Japanese gardeners were planting mulberry trees. Others were working in the farthest section. They had already plowed the ground, tilled the soil, and dug long trenches for irrigation. Now they were placing 3-year-old tea plants in mounds bordering the trenches. Water would run down the hill between the rows of plants. There should be enough rain to make the plants grow, but water in the nearby Gold Hill ditch was available if needed. Herr Schnell had chosen to come to Gold Hill because it promised a substantial rainfall, and just 2 weeks earlier there had indeed been a good rain. Herr Schnell came onto the porch with Mrs. Schnell and looked at the men working in the fields. "It is just as I told you, Josan. See how beautiful this land is? These hills are just like those in Wakamatsu. If the sun continues to shine and the rain to fall, then our plants will grow strong and healthy." He looked down at her and grinned, his magnificent mustache glistening in the sunlight. "Our children will grow strong and healthy here also." And he turned, strode quickly down the steps, and headed toward the fields. There was much work to do every day now. "If hard work brings success, then surely my husband will succeed," Mrs. Schnell said to Okie cheerfully, as she watched her husband stride away. Suddenly she shivered. "What is it? What brings troubled thoughts to me?" And she looked around and said quietly, "The sun still shines, but it is cold, very cold." She turned away from the sun that no longer seemed to give warmth. "Come, Okie. Let us tend to Frances. I think she is awake now." Okie quickly followed her into the house. "Hi," she thought. "Schnell Oku-san's fear brings troubled thoughts to me too. Is this a sign of misfortune to come?"